My name is Rebecca. I'm 58 years old, and until 2 years ago, I believed family meant loyalty. I believed blood was thicker than water. I believed my sister would never, ever betray me. I was wrong about everything. I built sterling events from nothing, started with birthday parties in community centers, worked my way up to million-dollar corporate events and celebrity weddings. 25 years of 18-hour days, missed holidays, and sacrificed relationships. But it was worth it. My company was everything to me. My sister Victoria was my business partner. She handled the financial side while I managed operations and client relationships. We were the perfect team, or so I thought. Victoria was brilliant with numbers, charming with clients, and absolutely ruthless when it came to protecting our interests. She was also a master manipulator, but I didn't learn that until it was too late. The first sign something was wrong came during our annual audit. Our accountant, Mr. Jameson, called me into his office with a concerned expression. Several large payments to vendors couldn't be verified. Client deposits were missing from our primary account. When I asked Victoria about it, she seemed genuinely confused. "That's strange," she said, reviewing the statements. "I'll look into it immediately." 2 weeks later, Victoria came to me with devastating news. Someone had been embezzling from our company. The theft was sophisticated, carried out over 18 months. Nearly $400,000 was missing. "I think it was Jennifer," Victoria said, referring to our head of operations. "She had access to the accounts, and I found some suspicious transactions tied to her login credentials." I was shocked. Jennifer had been with us for 5 years. She was like family. But the evidence Victoria presented was convincing. Bank statements, email trails, digital footprints that led straight back to Jennifer. I confronted Jennifer that same day. She denied everything, tears streaming down her face. She begged me to believe her, to investigate further. But Victoria had already contacted the authorities. Jennifer was arrested the following morning. The scandal destroyed us. News of the embezzlement spread through our industry like wildfire. Clients cancelled contracts. Vendors demanded immediate payment. Our reputation, built over 15 years, crumbled in 3 weeks. Victoria suggested we declare bankruptcy and start fresh. "We can rebuild," she said. "This time we'll be smarter about security and oversight." But I couldn't let it go. Not the business, not the betrayal, not the injustice. I mortgaged my house to keep Sterling Events afloat. I liquidated my retirement accounts. I sold everything I owned of value. Victoria watched me struggle for 6 months. She offered emotional support, but no financial help. "I wish I could contribute more," she said. "But David and I are saving for a house. We can't risk our future, too." David was her fiancé, a successful real estate developer with family money. They lived comfortably while I fought to save the company we had built together. Despite my efforts, Sterling Events finally collapsed. We lost our office lease. Our remaining employees found other jobs. 15 years of work vanished completely. Victoria was sympathetic but practical. "Sometimes you have to know when to walk away," she said. "This isn't your fault." But I had nothing left to walk away to. The mortgage payments on my house became impossible. I fell behind on utilities, credit cards, everything. Victoria offered to let me stay in her guest room temporarily while I figured things out. I moved into Victoria's beautiful colonial house in Westchester with a single suitcase and a broken heart. She and David were kind but distant. I felt like a charity case, which I suppose I was. For 3 months, I searched for work. But word of Sterling Events' collapse had spread. Nobody wanted to hire someone in their late 50s associated with such a spectacular failure. My reputation was toxic. That's when Victoria made her announcement. She was starting her own event planning company. "I learned so much working with you," she said. "I think I'm ready to try it on my own." The knife twisted deeper when I saw her new website. Sterling and Associates, founded by Victoria Sterling, former partner of the acclaimed Sterling Events. She was using our company's reputation, our client list, our vendor relationships. Everything I had built was being reborn under her name. When I confronted her, Victoria was unapologetic. "Business is business, Rebecca. I can't let sentiment hold me back from success." 3 weeks later, Victoria asked me to leave. "David and I are getting married next month," she said. "We need privacy to start our new life together." I begged for more time. I had nowhere to go, no money, no prospects. Victoria was unmoved. "I've been generous for 3 months," she said. "You need to take responsibility for your own life now." I spent my last $40 on a room at the Riverside Motel, the kind of place where the sheets smell like bleach and the walls are paper thin. I lay awake that first night, listening to traffic and wondering how my life had gone so wrong so quickly. But sometimes rock bottom becomes the foundation for something stronger. I spent my days at the public library, using their computers to research bankruptcy law, employment opportunities, anything that might help me climb out of the hole I was in. That's where I discovered something interesting about my sister's new business. Sterling and Associates had landed several major contracts immediately after launching. High-profile clients who had never worked with Victoria directly. Corporate accounts that typically took years to develop. It was almost like someone had handed her a ready-made client base. Curious, I started digging deeper. Public records, business filings, incorporation documents. What I found made my blood run cold. Victoria had filed the paperwork for Sterling and Associates 6 months before Sterling Events collapsed. She had been planning her exit and my destruction for half a year. But that wasn't the worst part. I found emails. Victoria had been careless with her digital security, and some of her correspondence was stored on shared drives we had used for Sterling Events. Messages to David, to lawyers, to potential clients. Messages that painted a very different picture of what had happened to my company. Once Rebecca is out of the picture, we'll have a clear path to rebuild with the right clients and proper management. The embezzlement story is working perfectly. She'll never suspect until it's too late. Jennifer was the perfect scapegoat. No one will question her guilt. I read those emails 3 times before the full truth hit me. Victoria hadn't discovered the embezzlement. She had committed it. She had stolen from our company, framed Jennifer, and watched me destroy myself trying to save a business she had already decided to kill. Jennifer was innocent. I had fired an innocent woman and watched her get arrested for crimes my sister committed. The betrayal was so complete, so calculating, that I actually laughed when I finished reading. A bitter, broken laugh that echoed through the empty library. Because what else could I do? Cry? Scream? I had already done plenty of both. Number. I was going to do something much more satisfying. I was going to destroy Victoria the same way she had destroyed me. I started with Jennifer. It took me 3 days to track her down. She was working at a small marketing firm in Connecticut, barely making enough to cover her legal fees. When I called, she hung up on me twice. Finally, I showed up at her office. "Jennifer, I know you didn't steal that money." She stared at me like I was a ghost. "What are you talking about?" I handed her a folder containing copies of Victoria's emails. Jennifer read them in silence, her face cycling through confusion, recognition, and finally rage. "She destroyed my life," Jennifer whispered. "She destroyed both our lives. I replied. But we can fix this. Jennifer and I spent the next month building our case. We recovered deleted files, traced financial transactions, and documented Victoria's deception in excruciating detail. We also hired a lawyer, a sharp young woman named Sarah Chen, who specialized in corporate fraud cases. The evidence was overwhelming. Victoria had systematically embezzled money from sterling events while creating a paper trail that implicated Jennifer. She had used stolen funds to finance her new company and buy her house with David. But we didn't go to the police. Not yet. Instead, I made a different kind of investment. Remember how I mentioned that David was a real estate developer? What I didn't mention was that David's family business was struggling. His father's company had overextended during the boom years and was quietly hemorrhaging money. They needed investors desperately. Using Jennifer's marketing expertise and my industry connections, we created a shell company called RB Holdings. We approached David's father with a generous offer to buy a controlling interest in his struggling development firm. The old man was so grateful for the bailout that he didn't ask too many questions about our funding sources. We paid cash through offshore accounts that Jennifer helped me establish. Everything was completely legal, if creatively structured. Within 3 months, RB Holdings owned 60% of Sterling Development Group, which meant we controlled David's family business. Our first executive decision was to review all current projects and investments. We discovered that David and Victoria's house had been financed through the development company, a sweetheart deal that was technically legal but ethically questionable. Our second executive decision was to call in that loan immediately. David received the notice on a Tuesday morning, payment in full within 30 days, or the property would be foreclosed upon. Victoria called me that same afternoon. For the first time in 6 months, she sounded scared. "Rebecca, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Do you know anything about RB Holdings?" I had been waiting for this call. Never heard of them. Why? They bought David's father's company. Now they're demanding immediate payment on our house loan. It's some kind of hostile takeover. "That sounds terrible," I said. "Have you tried talking to them?" David's father set up a meeting, but they're being completely unreasonable. They want full payment, or they'll take the house. I paused for effect. "How much do you owe?" 800,000. Wow, that's a lot of money. I hope you can figure something out. The silence on the other end was delicious. Victoria and David scrambled to secure financing, but their options were limited. The house was mortgaged to its full value, and David's income was tied to the family business that was no longer family-controlled. They tried to negotiate with RB Holdings, but our representatives were inflexible. Full payment within 30 days, no extensions, no modifications. As the deadline approached, Victoria became increasingly desperate. She called me every few days, fishing for information, looking for help, hoping I might have some mysterious windfall that could save them. "I know we had our differences," she said during one call, "but we're still sisters. Family helps family." "You're absolutely right," I replied. "Family should help family." 3 days before the foreclosure deadline, Victoria made one final plea. She offered to sell Sterling and Associates and give me half the proceeds if I could somehow help them save the house. "That's generous," I said, "but I don't think it would be enough." "Then what do you suggest?" "Well," I said thoughtfully, "there is one option." I told her about a conversation I'd had with representatives from RB Holdings. They were willing to buy the house directly for fair market value. Victoria and David could walk away without owing anything, but they'd have to move out within a week. "It's not ideal," I said, But at least you wouldn't lose everything. Victoria was suspicious. Why would they offer that? Maybe they feel bad about the whole situation. Sometimes business decisions aren't personal. 2 days before foreclosure, Victoria accepted RB Holdings' offer. She and David sold their beautiful colonial house for exactly what they owed on it. They walked away with nothing, but they avoided bankruptcy. The closing was handled by lawyers. Victoria never met the actual buyers. 3 weeks later, I moved into my new house, the same colonial in Westchester, where I had spent 3 humiliating months as Victoria's charity case. The same house where she had kicked me out to protect her privacy. I changed the locks on the first day. Victoria found out 2 months later. Jennifer posted a photo on social media, the two of us having dinner on the patio of Victoria's former home. The caption read, "Celebrating justice with Rebecca in her beautiful new house." Victoria called me 20 minutes after the post went live. "You bought my house," she said. It wasn't a question. "I bought a house," I corrected. "It happened to be yours." "Your RB Holdings." RB Holdings is a legitimate investment company. "This is insane, Rebecca. You can't just steal someone's house." I laughed. I didn't steal anything. I bought it fair and square, with money I earned through smart investments and careful planning. "What money? You were homeless 6 months ago." Amazing what you can accomplish when you're motivated properly. The silence stretched between us. When Victoria finally spoke, her voice was small and broken. "How?" "You want to know how I went from homeless to homeowner in 6 months?" "Yes." "I learned from the best teacher in the world. Someone who taught me that family loyalty is a weakness, that business is just business, that sometimes you have to destroy someone completely to get what you want." Another long pause. "You." "Me what?" "You taught me all of that. You showed me exactly how to steal someone's life and smile while doing it." Victoria hung up without another word, but the story wasn't over yet. 3 days later, federal agents arrested Victoria for embezzlement, fraud, and money laundering. The evidence Jennifer and I had compiled was overwhelming. Bank records, email communications, digital forensics that proved Victoria had stolen nearly $500,000 from Sterling Events. Jennifer's charges were dropped immediately. She received a formal apology from the prosecutor's office and a settlement from the insurance company that had originally denied her claim. Victoria's trial lasted 6 weeks. I attended every day, sitting in the front row where she could see me, watching as witness after witness testified to her guilt, watching as her perfectly constructed lies fell apart under scrutiny. She was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison and ordered to pay full restitution. David divorced her before she began serving her sentence. Apparently, his love was as conditional as his loyalty. Sterling and Associates collapsed within weeks of Victoria's arrest. Clients fled. Vendors demanded payment. Employees found other jobs. 15 years of my work vanished for the second time. But this time, it was justice, not theft. I started my new company 6 months later. Sterling Events, LLC. Same name, same vision, better security protocols. Jennifer joined as my partner and head of operations. Together, we rebuilt what Victoria had tried to steal. Our first major client was David's father's development company. RB Holdings hired Sterling Events to manage the grand opening of their newest luxury property. The event was flawless, and the publicity was excellent. That property, by the way, was the renovated colonial house in Westchester. I had spent 8 months transforming Victoria's former home into luxury condominiums. Each unit sold for more than Victoria and David had paid for the entire house. The irony was beautiful. I kept the penthouse for myself. Corner unit, panoramic views, twice the space of the original house. I furnished it with pieces from Sterling Events' showroom. Everything was perfect, elegant, and completely mine. Victoria was released from federal prison last month. She called me 2 days later. "I'm out," she said. I heard. "Congratulations. I have nowhere to go." "That's unfortunate." "Rebecca, I know you hate me. I know I deserve it. But I'm still your sister." I looked out the window of my penthouse at the grounds where Victoria had once lived, where she had kicked me out with nowhere to go. "You're right," I said. "You are still my sister." Hope crept into her voice. "Does that mean—" "It means you taught me that family loyalty is a choice, not an obligation. And I choose not to make the same mistake twice." I hung up and blocked her number. Victoria is living in a halfway house now. She works at a grocery store, bagging groceries for minimum wage. Sometimes I see her when I'm shopping. She looks older, smaller, defeated. She doesn't approach me anymore. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel vindicated. I don't feel angry. I feel free. Because the most important lesson Victoria taught me wasn't about revenge or justice or business strategy. It was about power. Real power isn't the ability to destroy someone who trusts you. Real power is the ability to rebuild yourself stronger than before. Victoria thought she had broken me permanently. She thought I would stay broken, stay grateful for whatever scraps she threw my way. She underestimated my capacity for survival, for growth, for calculated patience. She kicked me out thinking I would never find my way back. She was wrong. I didn't just find my way back. I bought the whole neighborhood. And now, every night, I fall asleep in the house that used to be hers, in the life I built from the ashes of her betrayal, surrounded by the success she tried to steal from me. Some people might call this revenge. I call it justice. There's a difference, and that difference matters. Revenge is emotional, impulsive, destructive. Justice is patient, methodical, constructive. Revenge destroys everything in its path. Justice rebuilds what was wrongfully taken. Victoria destroyed my trust, my business, my reputation, and my home. But she also gave me something valuable. She taught me that I'm stronger than I ever imagined. She taught me that survival isn't just about enduring hardship. It's about transforming hardship into strength. I wouldn't recommend the experience to anyone, but I also wouldn't trade it for anything, because now I know who I really am. Not the naive woman who trusted blindly, not the broken woman who begged for mercy. I'm the woman who lost everything and built it back better. I'm the woman who learned that the best revenge isn't destruction. It's success. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and share your own stories in the comments below. Your voice matters, and your story deserves to be heard.